Hey everybody, welcome back. Turnpike to Turnpike Fantasy Football. I'm League Commissioner Kevin Mabula, and this is the Week 6 preview show. How are you guys doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling a little bit better than I have the past couple weeks, I gotta admit it. We have some competition in this league once again, and stop me if you heard me say this before, but I'm proud of this league and how tough it is. Every one of you out there knows how difficult it is to win in this league and stay consistent. And this past week, we saw some really good matches. We saw some favored teams get beat, and we saw that competitive balance that is Turnpike to Turnpike kind of get even again. We're seeing everybody from the top come down, people from the bottom go up. And that is Turnpike to Turnpike, and let's look at last week's matchups. First up, we had Mike Bonds, East Fall Blunts, finally picking up its first win. Congratulations to you, Mike. I know finally getting that win helps, makes the week feel a little bit better for you. You took on Greg Long's Mount Laurel Lancers, and you won this one 106 to 86. You got 27 points out of your quarterback, Tony Romo, 22 points out of your Chargers defense, and 19 points out of your tight end, Greg Olsen. Great job, Mike. I know that you were sweating this win. I'm happy for you. Greg, you're now at the same record with a 1-4 record. Let's see how you got it. You got 47 points out of your quarterback, Peyton Manning, and that was pretty much all you got. You got 11 points out of Le'Veon Bell. You got 11 points out of your kicker, Dan Carpenter. So with that, you guys are both at a record of 1-4. Moving on, we're approaching the halfway mark in Turnpike to Turnpike, so hopefully the second half will be better for both of you. Up next, we've got Jeff Szyminski's Paper Tiger taking on Aaron Stampa's Snoozy Loafs. Jeff wins this one in a very closely contested game, 116 to 111. Jeff, you got 25 points out of your running back, Matt Forte. A little bit more on Matt Forte a little bit later on in the show. 24 points out of your quarterback, Phillip Rivers, who, by the way, Jeff, has just been a phenomenal fantasy quarterback for you all season long. I know that was the guy you were targeting later in the draft, so you could build a team before you did something silly and reach for a quarterback early in the draft, and what dividends that's paying for you. And you also got 18 points out of your tight end, Antonio Gates, who seems to step into a hot tub time machine and gone back about 10 seasons because he's looking great again this year. Where Aaron, you put up a valiant fight, for your first year in Turnpike to Turnpike. I think you did a great job. You've got 29 points out of Andy Lacy. Had to be great to see him actually show up this past week. He was your first round draft pick, finally showing up as a fantasy stud. You also got 20 points out of your wide receiver, Brian Quick, and 19 out of your other wide receiver, Vincent Jackson. So with that, Jeff, you move up into third place at 3-1-1, where Aaron, you are now at the bottom of the pack. Last place at 1-4. Welcome to Turnpike. It's not easy, and you'll learn that. Up next, we have really what was the match of the week last week, and that is Deputy Commissioners Chris Long's Asgardian Thunder Gods taking on Matt Dreyfus's Fishtown off in a corner. And when you have a player on your team score 43 points and another one score 25, you have to think you're going to win, Matt. But that's not the case because Chris's Asgardian Thunder Gods, I thought was going to challenge Jeff Szyminski from last week with the biggest point total of this season. Because Chris got 56 points out of his wide receiver, Demaryius Thomas. Just last week on this show, and during Meet the Manager, we were talking about Demaryius Thomas and how he was underperforming, and I think I said to him, he's going to break out. Well, I didn't expect this. 56 points out of Demaryius Thomas, 26 points out of Antone Smith. What a crazy running back insert there you put there, Chris, and it paid off for you, 26 points. And also 23 points out of your quarterback, Drew Brees. Where Matt, As I said, you got 43 points out of Andre Ellington, 25 points out of Andrew Luck, who another solid performance, and 15 points out of your wide receiver, Julio Jones. In another match from last week, we had Kenny's Godfathers taking on John Moore's Gravediggers. Downtown Gravediggers visiting Kenny Long's Godfathers. And Kenny wins this one 134-100. Now, Kenny, I'm not sure that you could have more Seahawks on your roster. I was really finding myself rooting against your team all week because of the fact that you have so many of the shitbags on your team. But it paid off for you because you got 41 points out of the midget Russell Wilson. You also got 33 points out of Arian Foster, who just had a great game for you. And you got 20 points out of the Buffalo Bills defense. Where, John, you had a really solid 28 points from the Philadelphia Eagle defense, 24 points out of your wide receiver, Golden Tate, and 15 points out of your running back, Frank Gore. Frank Gore's still looking good, 31 years old. I know I was talking a little bit about him falling down a little bit this past year. I was definitely wrong. I'm rooting for Frank big time because you know where my allegiance lies in terms of 49ers. Frank looks great. They got to keep feeding him the rock, and hopefully, John, that'll keep paying off for you. I know this one was a tough loss for you, but you did score 100 points. It was a good game for you. My game from last week, I took on the previously undefeated Jeffariah Hezekiah Golden Bomb and his Hamilton Square Possums. My Warriors of Babylon defeat him, knocking him out of the ranks of the undefeated. God, that feels good to say. You know, I don't know how good my team could be. I'm still hopeful that I can make a push here some point in the season. But if I don't win another game this season, this one I will remember. Beating Jeff, knocking him out of the undefeated ranks was great. Jeff, I really wanted to come on and slam you for over-managing. I think you tinkered a little bit too much with your lineup this past week. More on that in 1 second. I beat you 104-71. I got 24 points out of my quarterback, Jay Cutler, 24 points out of Jordy Nelson on one catch, mind you. As I told you before, this league is predicated on the big play and the big bonuses, and Jordy Nelson had one catch for 66 yards and a touchdown for 24 points. And also, I got 14 points out of my other wide receiver, Dez Bryant. Where, Jeff, you got 21 points out of DeMarco Murray, the most solid guy on your squad, maybe the most solid guy in fantasy football. 15 points out of Ben Roethlisberger, and 8 points out of your kicker, Dan Bailey. Now, Jeff, I wanted to kill you this week for overmanaging and not starting Matt Ryan, because when I finally saw what you tried doing and seeing that you actually started 3 Pittsburgh Steelers in a game, all right, they were playing Jacksonville, but you still had Matt Ryan going up against the New York Giants. I mean, the Giants aren't world beaters either, and you sat down really a hot quarterback for a guy that you were hoping to play in a matchup situation. I was a little leery of it. It didn't hurt you quite as bad as I thought it was going to, but it still did. And in the last match from last week, probably the one that I was enjoying the most, and oh boy, I was hoping for more points in this one. Brian Sheehan's Michael Sam's Gerbils take on Bob Crane's Julius Jones and pounds Bob 143-53. Now this game I thought could have been even a bigger blowout. I was rooting for more points on that Monday night game. I wanted Deshaun Jackson to score on another 50-plus yard touchdown because I wanted desperately to tell Brian that he had the biggest lopsided victory in the history of Turnpike to Turnpike. As we all know, Jeff Zeminski had that just this past week. It was close. He wasn't able to quite get there. He still beat him by 90 points, 143-53. Wow. Brian, you got 38 points out of Deshaun Jackson, 23 points out of Tom Brady, and 21 points out of your kicker, Stephen Gostkowski. Where Bobby, you got 24 points out of Aaron Rodgers, and then pretty much nothing else. You did get 0 points out of Calvin Johnson, who you bragged to me about how you take him all day where you took him. And you also got you also got 0 points from Larry Donnell, your other massive pickup. Bobby, this was so great. This was great watching the wheels fall off this week. Because we all know how annoying you could be with your emails and your texts. We all know it. But you know who else knows it besides me really well is Brian Sheehan. And guess who joined me this week on Meet the Manager? I couldn't wait to talk to somebody about this. And I said, you know what, I got to talk to Brian. I got to just get the energy of what it was like to just pound Bob Crane into the ground. So I spoke to Brian a little while ago. Here's how it went. So when it came to Meet the Manager this week, there was only one choice, only one person I wanted to hear from, and I'm sure all of you want to hear from him as well, coming off that epic beatdown of Bob Crane. Of course, I'm talking about Brian Sheehan. Brian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Wow, Brian.
How's it going?
Congratulations to you, sir. That was an awesome, awesome performance.
Thank you. You know, I have to say, this was poetic justice after all the bullshit that Prano put us through in the last week, and the entire season this season, with him thinking he had a chance of winning the entire thing. So
yeah, this was absolutely a joy to watch this past week. As a matter of fact, right now I'm going to I'm sure you're having a drink on your end, so I'm going to pour myself a martini right here on the air, and I'm going to toast to you.
Thank you. Toast.
To you, Sheesh, for kicking that little man's ass. I think it was fantastic. You did us all a service. I'm tired of getting the texts and the emails of him being his own biggest fan. This past week, it couldn't have been better. It could have been better if Deshaun scored 11 more points for you last night. It would have been the biggest margin of victory in the history of Turnpike to Turnpike.
Well, he tried. So this drink, toast to Bob Crane, Mazel Tov to Bob Crane. I'll drink to that.
L'chaim.
Whatever they say. Beautiful.
So let's get to this, Brian. Tell me how rough it's been for you, especially this past week. We all know the ESPN projections are terrible. They had you rated out at I believe like a 54 point underdog. And I know that you sent me, I have right here printouts of text messages that you have been receiving all week long from Bob, talking about your quarterback, the point spread, and everything else. Why don't you take us through the week?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can only go through memory because I'm not looking at my text messages.
Okay.
Basically, he was laughing at me from the Tom Brady performance of the week before. So
yep.
that, that last week was painful. It was painful, and I would. Maybe I'll say I can make excuses after excuses of, bye weeks, blah, 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 but that was painful to watch.
Right.
And I got my ass kicked last week by Golden Bomb, by the way. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
Last week, just to throw that in there. But we'll hit the Golden Bomb later.
Yeah, let's stick to the midget in the room. Let's get at him.
So Bob decided to give me a few jabs about how he can't wait to go up against Brady because Brady's a has-been, he's an underperformer, blah blah blah. And with a guy like Tom Brady, if you piss him off, he's just going to work harder that week to do the best he can. And he's a Pro Bowler. He's somebody that you can't underestimate.
Yep, I agree.
So I was not worried about Tom Brady's performance this week.
Okay.
At all.
What I love here, I'm actually reading the text just to remind you, and I'm going to put it up here on the board as well. Brady sucks. Please start Brady this week. That's what he asked for. So you did that. Then also the next one he's telling you how he's a 54-point favorite, and that he wants to put, he's thinking about Calvin Johnson in his lineup. Calvin Johnson, who he basically told everybody how he couldn't miss by picking him at the 4th pick. And guess what? I think it's going to turn out to be a bust because Calvin might miss a couple more weeks.
Oh, I hope he does. And that just might be enough to keep Bob out of the playoffs.
Oh,
that's
please,
what I'm hoping for.
Please. Because there is nothing worse than a cocky Bob. It is just, out of everybody in this league, we're all kind of reserved and quiet about it. Like last week, Chris Long was asking me about the whole Niner-Eagle game and everything, and I took it. I didn't really. There wasn't a lot of bravado about it. But geez, man, Bob, when he gets one little win, he extrapolates it across the whole season. It's amazing. The texts and the emails I get from him are mind blowing.
Oh, he thinks he can't do any wrong. He really does. He really does. So Bob was so confident about winning this week, he wanted to bet me. And so I thought I'd throw him a curveball by saying, fine, if you want to give me 54 points, then, it's a joke. Then I said, okay, let's go double or nothing.
Right.
And this is going to confuse him. What do you mean double or nothing? He's like, wait a minute, do I owe you money? Oh, no. So he totally confused Bob. He didn't know how to react to that. And then after that, I was like, all right, Bob, you know what? You put in Calvin Johnson. We'll see what happens, and look what happened.
That's
and then
awesome.
you start, go ahead, then go through the text messages. Then he started talking about how Hunter, who was sitting on my bench.
Yep.
And how he was doing great, at the 1 o'clock game. He scored 20-some-odd points. He's like, thank God you sat down, Hunter.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you for keeping Hunter on the bench.
Yeah. You know what? And Hunter hasn't done anything all season. So, I mean, we'll see what happens next week. I think I might have to play Hunter next week because I have a few guys on bye week. But, when Bob gets rolling, you know what you should do? You should also show Bob's picture. If you show Bob's picture, and just look at Bob Crane as a person. You look at him, and you look at those beady red eyes. You should please put his picture up there so we can all stare at Bob Crane. And when you see somebody on the news and you hear about this tragic thing about this murderer has been caught, and you see a picture of the guy that was accused of murder, and you're like, you know what? I can kind of see that. That's Bob. That's Bob's picture right there. You're like, you know what? If this guy shows up in the news, you'd be like, yeah, I can see him snapping. Oh my God! You know what Bob should do?
What's
Put
that?
some sunglasses if you can. Bob should wear sunglasses, really big sunglasses, his entire life.
Yeah, how about like these on this picture I'm putting on right here now? All right. How about this? What if we put some kind of crazy those long Jewish pigtails on them like this? What do you think? Perfect. I think this is a good look for Bob.
Bob Crane should walk around with big sunglasses his entire life.
I like this
Act like
idea.
a blind man.
I like this idea. But man, Brian, thanks again for taking the time out. I know it's a busy day for you, but there was nobody else I wanted to talk to this week. I had so much fun watching the points just roll in last night. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of these seasons. It's like you scored 60 points one day, and then 1 week, and then you score 130 the next week. And I got to tell you, there's not really anybody that is blowing this league out. I know Golden Bomb's doing pretty well.
Yep.
But if I was to pick a winner this season, I got to say, I think Crazy Question Szymanski might actually pull this one out this year.
Yeah, he's got a good squad.
He does. He does.
Anybody but Bob, Brian. That's all I got to say. It's just anybody but Bob. I mean...
Oh, Bob doesn't have a chance this year. He's got 4 guys on the IR right now. He's done.
But you know what sucks? I'm going to have to pay for his league dues next year because of that stupid tight end bet I made.
I know. It's painful. And watching him fit Witten, well, who was it? Who was
Donnell. Larry Donnell gets 0 points.
Talk about over-managing. This guy over-manages like there's no tomorrow. It's like when he plays the stock market. He looks what the stock did yesterday and he bets on it. Like you got to think about who they're matched up against. He's a moron.
It's called chasing last week's points. That's what he was doing. He reacts. Yep.
And that's what he does.
That's it.
Over-managing Bob Crane.
Well, so that's your big pick though. You think Szymanski's gonna eat this one out? He did get to the championship game last year, so maybe he will. I kind of like. I like what Chris Long's team's doing lately. Don't look now. They're 4-1, second place.
Yeah, but he again, almost every team this season is score big 1 week, and then next week you're in double digits. You're not triple digits. And so it all depends on how your players do. And Jeff said it right last week where he said, it is kind of all luck and all about the matchups. So it all depends on how your team plays during the playoffs, and who really knows how it's going to work out. Hell, who knows? Even I might even squeak out a win one, at least, making it to the playoffs this year.
Absolutely.
You just never know.
Absolutely.
Someone that doesn't know shit about football might actually make it in the playoffs. So,
you know what?
Anyway,
it's funny because I look up and down at the rosters on each of each of our teams this year, and there isn't a perfect team. Every team has holes. Even Golden Bomb's team, who started out 4-0, he's got a wide receiver. He's questionable at wide receiver. Everybody's got that weakness. There's a weak link to everybody, whether it's a quarterback situation, whether it's your running backs. Mine's my running backs. My running backs are shit, but I'm strong everywhere else. But everybody else has a weakness too, and it's just a matter of figuring out a way of covering that weakness up on any given week.
Right. And you know what? I think it's the 12-team league. I think that really, levels the playing field, and there's always going to be a weakness on everyone's team.
Yep.
And I have to say, I think you're not to jump on the bandwagon here, but the tight ends need to be picked up a little bit. Unfortunately, you got hit with that injury, and that's gonna hurt you a little bit.
Yep.
But we have a bet too.
Yes, I know.
By the way,
I do know. Total points end of the year.
It's close. It's back and forth every week. It's someone else takes the lead, so I think it's going to be very close at the end of the season. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's the way Turnpike to Turnpike is, Brian. It's close all the way. It's a tough league, man. You know it.
Yeah, it's always a great league.
Yep.
And thanks again for putting together those videos. They're awesome.
Thanks.
And good luck to everybody else. I can't wait to see who you bring on next week.
All right, man.
All right, guys.
Take care. Get your drink on again. Wait, one more toast to Bob. All right, there, Bob. To you, and you're over managing. L'chaim.
We hate you.
All right, Brian.
All right, guys.
I'll catch you soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. It's Brian Sheehan, owner of Michael Sam's Gerbils. Thanks, Brian. That was really fun, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. There was a lot of excitement. Beating Bob is fun. I hope all of you get a chance to do it. It's fun. There's nothing like it in this world, except maybe beating Jeff Goldenbaum when he's undefeated. Let's get to this coming week's matchups. My Warriors of Babylon play host to Kenny Long's Kenny's Godfathers in a matchup of 2 and 3 teams. This is a big game for both of us, Kenny. I know that you're right now you are projected to win, but we all know what the ESPN projections can go out the window in Turnpike to Turnpike. Whoever gains the win here is going to actually position himself pretty good for maybe one of those lower seeds in the playoffs. There's a lot of football to go, but not too many more losses for us because a couple more and we're going to be eliminated. Jeffariah Hezekiah Goldenbaum's Hamilton Square Possums take on Bob Crane in another great match. Will Bobby taste the excitement of beating Jeff? It's not going to be quite as sweet, Bob, because Jeff's no longer undefeated. But Jeff, can you taste the sweetness of what it's like to beat Bob? I'm going to be rooting for you, Jeff. I think we all are. It's just fun. It's a national pastime, and everybody enjoys beating on Bob. Good luck to you, Jeff. John Moore's Downingtown Gravediggers taking on his son-in-law, Matt Dreyfus' Fishtown off in a corner, in a matchup of John Moore's 2 and 3 team and Matt's 3 and 2 team. This is going to be a big game for you, John. Matt, you're still in great position, as you always are every single season in Turnpike to Turnpike. Brian Sheehan's, our guest earlier, Michael Sam's Gerbils taking on Mike Bond's Eastfall Blunts. This is a matchup of a 3 and 2 team taking on a 1 and 4 team. Can Mike Bond continue to build on the momentum, or will Brian just take the momentum he got from pounding on Bob and roll into another victory? Deputy Commissioner, this is going to be a great game next week. Deputy Commissioner Chris Long's Asgardian Thunder Gods taking on Jeff Szyminski's Paper Tiger. Chris coming in at 4 and 1. This is after he spoke so poorly of his own team last week, talking about how maybe he didn't think he was going to actually make the playoffs. This team looks great right now. 4 and 1, taking on Jeff Szyminski's Paper Tiger at 3, 1 and 1. Big time ramifications for playoff seeding in this game. And in the last match, we have really what could be listed as, we've done it before. This could be the toilet bowl. We've got a 1 and 4 taking on a 1 and 4 win. Aaron Stampa, not Rogers, Aaron Stampa's Snoozy Loafs take on Greg Long's Mount Laurel Lancers. Whoever loses this one, it's going to be a long rest of the season, guys. All right, so check it out. That's it. I'm full of energy this week. I hope you guys all like it. I thank Brian Sheehan for his fantastic Meet the Manager segment. I will talk to you all next week. Until then, I'm League Commissioner Kevin Babula. Bye.